Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Data Engineering Weekly Radio. Ashwin is with me. Hi Ashwin.
Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon. Hopefully you're all well.
Yeah, hopefully. I had a very interesting week this week. So I fly all the way to Austin, attended a data council, 3 days, a lot of excitement, met so many people. I'm so thankful for the wonderful community. And one thing that you would notice, the people are so nice in the data community. It's amazing to meet them, brainstorm with a lot of ideas, various thought process. It's kind of, I would say like the conference mostly like kind of a jam of a different thought process and different ideas and entrepreneurship, their struggles, their success, and they kind of come and openly sharing all together and creating that very welcoming, very welcoming feeling there. It's really nice. It's a great
Well,
experience with the council.
what do you think? Should people book their tickets for Data Council next year? And
Yes, definitely. I think data council getting better and better every time. I spoke in data council Barcelona edition. I think we were 2018. Incidentally, that's my last Europe trip. And then the
should plan
COVID
for one very soon.
then the COVID hit, like nothing happened. So yeah. So
What
last
is
year we
the,
just
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead on. Sorry.
last year we just came out of the COVID. Like there was like a minimal amount of conversation here. This time the tracks and amount of topics that we discussed kind of expanding a lot. There was a conversation about data engineering and infra, data science and algorithm, and then an MLOps and for MLOps side of it. And the newer additions right now sound um, like generative AI is kind of one of the important track here to kind of watch out for that, and streaming infrastructure. So and then like there's a couple of other interesting track also from analytics and also for data culture and community. So it's kind of bridging like a 360-degree of different topics that is very relevant to data engineering. So overall, it's getting better and better, and really looking forward next year to that one.
Great. What was the theme and the mood of the people there, right? With all the events happening, the economic downturn, general trends in the data space is also kind of uh, consolidate, start bundling, and all of that. So, what was the theme of this year's Data Council? And then what is the general mood of the participants?
Yeah, definitely. I think, as you rightly pointed out, like the economic situation is kind of very tough. And last year, when I attended Data Council, it was like a room full of VCs. This time,
Okay.
the amount is kind of definitely not a lot. Probably Data Council kind of charging 5,000 K, so $5,000 for
It's nothing for a VC where
VCs.
making all this
I
money
don't know
just
why
there.
people do that. So yeah, I think the common theme I noticed that um, the funding flow is less. People are really looking at like validating ideas. The free flowing of money kind of will stop. That is definitely reflecting in many companies and approach now. Um, all the startups now very calculative and trying to move what is the next step they can take. How can they fulfill the consumer customers, and how do we kind of scale from the given economic situation? I think that's one of the common theme that I've seen while talking to multiple people. And The other theme I've seen, there are some new. Data council is always full of data practitioners and data wannabe entrepreneurs all the time. I met at least like a 2-3 people trying to build chat GPT integration onto the last mile business intelligence solution. I think that is a very exciting space to kind of watch. There are a few pretty smart people that I know of trying to attempt that area, and
Interesting.
I met with them in the data council and then talked about various practices. It was very interesting thing.
What do you think
And
of that? Before we go back to the talks and the Data Council and your other topics, do you think generative AI will risk jobs in data world?
um,
Today it can,
will
right? schema, right? Queries.
There will be definitely a replacement of job or um, so I cannot tell. I don't know what the industry will happen, but I can tell what I experienced with the whole ChatGPT and then generative AI. I've been using ChatGPT. I've been using GitHub Copilot for my day-to-day coding for the last 1 month, and it is definitely improved my productivity at least 60%,
Okay.
if not more than that. What I mean by increasing the productivity for me, if I have an idea that I wanted to do certain things, I can express in a proper way, essentially prompt engineering. I'm able to get exactly what I want. So the idea to implementation, that cycle is kind of shorted a lot. But at the same time, my debugging cycle is kind of increasing. But one way or other, right? So, but the point is here, it is going to increase the productivity of data engineers and data analysts. And one of the things that ChatGPT is really, really good at it is like handling this human to machine interaction. And if you take that problem space, and that's a problem space is widely being there in the last mile delivery of analytics. People wanted to deliver the data. Some people like SQL, some people like drag and drop UI, and some people like Excel sheet. And then there's like whole bunch of other systems like I want notebook. There's like a 5, 6 different way for people to kind of access, and that workflow is very hard to kind of solve right now. So you'll see like so many BI systems are like all in the last mile of it. I feel ChatGPT and generative AI will definitely disrupt in that space because human very intuitively think from very hierarchical perspective and we able to express in words. And if ChatGPT kind of a system can understand, and let's say I just ask, show me my ARR for last 1 month, and ChatGPT kind of understand that, rewrite the SQL back, and then execute that and give me these things. Now, the idea to discovering certain insight is very short, versus I go and write a SQL, or I ask somebody else to write a SQL, somebody build a dashboard and then give them deliver to me, right? I think that last mile human to machine interaction will have a great impact. Opinion.
Got it.
Yeah. And the other part of the things, like similar to ChatGPT, there are some experimental approach of standardization where we can kind of approach that one. That is also kind of a very interesting theme that I have kind of seen. It's good to see that people are still kind of doing some experimentations on top of it. The larger theme I got again, the modern data stack is slowly getting mature. That's what I would say. Like the whole bundling versus unbundling argument. I think people fairly now come to a conclusion that it's going to be bundled.
Is MDS still relevant? Like, what was the conference theme like?
So MDS is relevant. I would say like the modern data stack, or I would say like the cloud data stacks, like this subtle of future stores here and there. I'm sorry, not the future store, like the future SaaS products here and there. It's slowly trying to get instead of bundling and unbundling, I would probably use the word mature. It's kind of getting mature, and then kind of, let's say, data. We've seen this whole keynote from Shashanka from Data Hub side of it. He was talking about how data catalog can be a control center for your whole pipeline. How can you describe your data quality rules in data catalog? How can you define your data governance rule in this? How can you define your schema, data contract, everything in data catalog? So now you can see there's no way the line is started to blur. That's what everyone is kind of saying from the slide of it. Like so now okay, data catalog. What is data catalog? Is it a combination of data quality, data catalog, data lineage? And is it like, and then data session kind of demonstrate how for a certain data quality rule, they can listen to the data quality rule successful, and then trigger an Airflow job from there. So Data Hub can be your dependency resolver also in the whole pipeline. So, so data catalogs now kind of trying to expand a lot. And
beyond
now,
just lineage and business terms and all of that.
yeah. So the whole,
Stability and contracts is what
yeah.
they're taking on.
Yeah. So that's my day one experience on the whole keynote, and that's something that we also been talking a lot of time, right? I think
Yeah.
data management space is going to be merging, and the data quality products also trying to step in and then say like they also get the data lineage, they also can provide data governance and all sort of a thing. So I think
tough space because I think everybody would do everything. Quality observability catalog, I think in the space would have to merge as one in order to are expected to solve for that.
Exactly. So this space is merging. No surprise, personally for me, that's what we kind of been talking about it. I think day one, the keynote is also kind of confirming that it's kind of glowing this one. So I had a.
What are the sessions? What are the sessions?
So the session I was talking about is kind of the keynote from Srishanga about the control plane. So interestingly, I had a off the track conversation with a VC, and I was kind of talking about like how reality the control plane, and this is something I also kind of very curious about, like how reality is that, right? Like, I mean, will a vertical company, will a vertical systems like Snowflake and Databricks and those likes of it, will they give away data governance experience to somebody else like Data Hub? I think that's a big question mark because there's a huge money involved in it, and they can very well provide that. And they, like, for example, Databricks already providing a Unity catalog, which is essentially a data governance tool here. And then Snowflake also has something on their own data governance tool here. And everyone is kind of fighting for their own. Everyone wanted to be the control center, and now who will kind of outsource that to somebody else to manage the experience that they will be in the back seat to do that one, right? So it is a very interesting North Star architecture for any data team, but given the current commercial thing, I don't know how feasible it is.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I agree. I think it's hard, right? Meaning, why would Snowflake or Databricks give them or give anybody a control in terms of when you define? See, this becomes the entry point and exit point, consumption point as well as the entry point. See, entry point is your contract. Consumption point becomes today's world catalog. Why would somebody leave it? Has been a question that has been going on in my mind for quite some time. Are they allowing all of these tool stacks and this software category to be mature enough? I no idea. Like, are they wanting this to be mature and then they can observe it, or are they just waiting for it? No idea. But then interestingly, Azure has Purview, and Purview is quite a decent data catalog for most Azure native customers, right? So I think. And it can technically work across cross-cloud platforms also, like the connectors can support AWS and the other systems. Space to watch out for. But coming back to Data Council, which is what this chat is all about with you, or what I understand from you and learn from you also. Like, what are the different sessions that you bumped into? I know they had tons of sessions. Anything that you want to highlight, the top 2 or 3 from your end?
Yeah, totally. I think the keynote is one of the interesting thing kind of first talking about it, and then other than that, like most of my like kind of it's like hallway conversation, a lot of interesting hallway conversations online. And so unfortunately, I kind of like a lot of conversations around that one. But one of the other interesting session I kind of attended on the day one is about MLOI. The new way kind of thinking a SQL perspective. I think the I really like the way the language construction is coming in. It is still experimental, but I think there's a lot of interesting construction built around how it is kind of abstracting a complicated nested SQL engine, SQL queries and sort of things. I really liked the system. I really wanted to play around it. But again, the question is essentially how mainstream it can become and how easy it is. To that one, the going back to the point, like if ChatGPT can write me a complicated SQLs, will I still require a Malay kind of a system to do that? So I think, and both ChatGPT and Malay, the fundamental problems that exist is the debuggability, right? ChatGPT can produce a dynamic SQL in a very complicated, like maybe 500 lines code. Malay can also do that underline and transpile that into a rule-based engine. Now, the question really like, what if something goes wrong? What will happen? And what about the performance of it? I think still those are like kind of a very building questions on the Malay side. But overall, it's a really, really good.
They also call themselves a semantic modeling company, right? They do
it is semantically actually like yeah, there was a fun conversation happened like in the night. There was a meeting. Somebody asked like, what is Malay is doing? Is Malay support semantic? And somebody asked the question, and then the founder kind of responded like, well, Malay is a semantic layer.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing. Yeah.
Again, yeah.
I think the third interesting. That interesting talk I was kind of attending is Uber metric system, how they kind of migrated Uber metric system from Elasticsearch to Apache Pinot. Apache Pinot is a system that I used to contribute some time back in the early stages of it. So I have a very, very fond, experience with Pinot. I still believe it's one of the best collab systems available. The way that kind of producing the capabilities of Pinot and then the flexibility of Pinot is really, really amazing. And Uber is also kind of talking to the same thing. I think Uber is kind of talking about how the flexibility of Pinot helped them to move away from Elasticsearch to Pinot, and some various use cases they kind of talked about it, and then some of the advancement they kind of do that. Uber contributed Presto integration with Pinot so that you can connect Pinot data to other data sources also.
Oh, that's interesting.
That was very fantastic things to do that. And they added the support for complex data types for the JSON type. And then the way they did it is like very amazing, very interesting engineering piece. So one of the problem in JSON is, or when we are inserting into this complex data types, it is already kind of nested. So you have to query that. And because of the nested structure, the databases cannot apply any kind of an indexing. If you are inserting a well-known column, like a top-level column, you can apply a column, you can put it into a column storage. You can apply your compression, you can get you all the statistics and all those things, but you are just putting a complex data type. It's very hard to kind of get those, summary statistics and then any issue of an optimization. What Pinot does that underlying when you are inserting into a nested structure, it kind of unset, like it kind of flatten it out your JSON and then store each and every field as an individual column in behind the scene. So you can still get all the columnar storage benefit, your compression.
Is it auto flattening? So
it's auto flattening. Yeah, it's auto flattening. So underlying Pinot implementation is like schemaless essentially, and schema is just kind of an abstraction on top of it.
Got it.
So by doing that, they're able to kind of give them like a fantastic performance on that. I think the support for semi-structured storage is very, very important in any modern data.
JSONs have become like a standard for exchange these days anyway, right? So most APIs.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. So that's eventually somebody asked like, well, in 10 years, what will happen in data engineering? Will the data engineer role exist or not? And I was kind of commented on Twitter and saying that, hey, I have a strong belief in JSON. I believe in JSON. I think the data engineering job is safe as long as JSON is there. So
I think it'll evolve to a high level of abstraction. And I think when DBT calls the data engineers and then slice a data engineer and then say, hey, you're now in analytics engineering. So some of the folks will evolve there, become more business centric, building data
Right.
products and all of that. The other one would be closely associated with software engineering. I think the space and the road will evolve from where it is today, uh, going across both the spectrum. It won't become dead for
Right.
sure, because
Yeah, yeah.
this is a speciality on its own, right?
Yeah. Third interesting optimization over done on top of Apache Pinot, essentially the ability to upset into real-time database. I think most of the databases are very good at handling immutable data, but
Okay.
they kind of added the upset operation and then optimization around that. I think that's truly remarkable things to do. I think it's a lot of educative
Any
on
thoughts
this.
on big data, Anand, around what's happening? Like, because that's a trend that we've been seeing. And one in Databricks is trying to do a lot more on the lakehouse, but we have seen general mutable conversations around big data these days, mother duck, and all of that coming to use.
Yeah, so the only conversation I found out very interesting about big data is like the big data is dead.
Okay.
Um, so that's kind of a DuckDB conversation around their thoughts on why big data is dead. So basically, DuckDB put forward three arguments. Number one argument is like not everyone have the terabyte of data. Only let's say if you are taking 100 companies, only maybe 5% of your company, 5% of the company has this big data problem. 95% of
Okay.
the this is right there. And the second argument they were kind of putting that okay, even if you have a big data problem, then you don't really process every data all the time. You are going to incrementally process that. You are going to process last 1 day data, how much is coming in, and then you are going to process only those data. So 95% of your data processing pipeline is going to be, even if you are a larger company on having this true big data potential, there's a higher possibility that you will be processing only the latest data, right? And the volume of data, latest data processing at any point of a time is pretty less, not really a big data. The third point they're kind of mentioning about why DuckDB is falling out, big data is dead. The CPU and the memory combinations, the advancement in the
Got it.
memory that you can buy a terabyte of memory in AWS right now, and then you can just store everything in memory and you can process it everything just like that, right? So
Got it.
I think that's a very fairly standard argument in my opinion to put on top of DB side of it. And then I off the conversation, I met with met a few people who were kind of talking about, and he was is kind of explaining the work he's doing on his company, where unfortunately I cannot name it. Instead of like putting the data into Snowflake, take the data and put the data into S3, load that into DuckDB, and then running some Lambda functions and then quickly process it. Way cheaper than the Road one, and Snowflake is kind of getting a little angry with them because the billing rate is kind of going down.
Got
But
it.
so
Interesting.
these innovations are happening around DuckDB, and but I also have another conversation with one of my ex-colleague from Slack. He was kind of funny about it. He was also experimenting with DuckDB, but he found out some performance issue and they're trying to ingest more and more data into DuckDB. So I think the cases what DuckDB is kind of building on top of it is very valid. I don't think no one can disagree with that. And there are a lot of people who also started experimenting it. So it'll be very interesting to see how far it will stretch out.
Got it. Got it. Perfect.
Yeah. Um,
Any
yeah.
other interesting people that you met?
Yeah, I met so many people that I've been used to chat in Slack, so I used to chat in Twitter and then in LinkedIn. So I'm able to meet with many people, uh, in person. Went for the after parties, a very rapid exchange of ideas. and what they've been working on, and then like their open commands about certain things. It was pretty very interesting. Very interesting things to do that.
Perfect.
I think
So,
the yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. Yeah,
I think there's a couple of other interesting talk I ever went through. One is from Abhishek Sharan, kind of talking about the metrics standardization side of it. I think that's kind of very interesting approach. I never thought about that. I think the way the talk essentially about designing and building metric trees. I never thought about like a metric trees as it is like so. So the approach essentially like you take a high level metric. What are the things that you wanted to do that, and then build an association like how this metric going to impact the other metrics. What is, and then build the semantic layer on top. Semantics around the metrics. And once you build the semantics, and you can build this whole tree structure of this metrics kind of impacted with this metrics, and what is the other metrics kind of like cause and influence of those things. The influencing is actually the function of it. So you can deconstruct the whole thing, and you can build this whole metric tree. Once you build this metric tree, the possibility of a metric tree is immense, right? Like you can quickly build it. You can bring any analytics. You can do some experimentation. Say you can change the influence variability, and you can say like how your business going to. You can literally simulate your business if you fully understood the metric tree structure of it. That you can just operate it. The way kind of the one thing that I really liked from Abhi's conversation, the way he kind of simplified the whole analytical world, the whole analytical pipeline. Essentially, is talking about metrics relationship. Metrics is a comprised of essentially the business is comprised of like a metrics and the relationship and the weight of the relationship. So if you started to vary that particular part of it, so you take an input of that is all your data point, that's your business input, and then you attach to the metrics and relationship and weight, and the output is how profit you are. That is what people you want to kind of get.
Okay.
So it's a function of
is he building something on that or?
I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I hope he will do that. I hope he's doing that. Yeah, that's
idea is interesting.
Yeah, that's a very interesting approach to kind of handling this aspect of it. Yeah, I think the last conversation, talk, I really liked it, is the state of cross-company exchange from Purdis. So she kind of talking about various ways the companies are exchanging their data, right? It could be an API exposed, and then somebody can call the API. Your consumers can copy the API and take that one. That's first approach. The second approach, like you just upload into a SFTP server or FTP or an S3 file, and then the company B takes the data from there. The third approach, like that's how Snowflake and then everyone is kind of sharing. Like okay, you can put that into Snowflake, and then they can access from there. It's kind of Snowflake is became the exchange format, right? That's Snowflake sharing. Redshift has a sharing. Delta Lake has a Delta Lake sharing. So the cross companies can access, and you can give access control and all that sort of thing, right? So, and some companies even expose the streaming layer. You can just connect your webhook, and then you can just stream on top of it through that one. There are various ways the companies now exchanging B2B data with them. So the conversation essentially, the talk essentially questioning what would be the revenue sharing model, who owns the data, what is the life cycle of the data, what is the governance around the data.
Yeah.
And these are all like a big question mark in all those integration model. Let's say like Salesforce have collaboration with Snowflake. Now Salesforce export the data into Snowflake, and some company B is using it. Now, how does the revenue sharing model works? I'm sure there must be some revenue sharing model, but we don't know exactly what it is. Like what about the governance, and how do you prevent the sensitive data leaking and all sort of thing? So Here, startup general folders. I really like that name, general folders, the wonderful startup name, is kind of trying to tackle that problem of cross company data
Right.
exchange. Similar to how your escrow account kind of working, right? Just put it into an escrow account,
Got
which
it.
could be general folders, and then you can just exchange that one. So essentially, a Dropbox of data exchange. Um,
That's an interesting perspective to see it. I saw one
it's
company, I forgot the name of the company now, who basically does sell and allow SaaS companies to monetize their data by writing it to a warehouse. So they provide that the infrastructure and the backbone to create APIs and then expose it automatically in Snowflake and then expose that also in the form of APIs. Something they
yeah.
can, I forgot the name of the company, so I'm not able to recollect that, but it sounds similar, but very interesting actually. This is a space. I think that will also evolve. See, in a data product world, we keep coming back to products because once you start building data products, how do you monetize it is very important, particularly external data products. Internal
Mhm.
data products are easier. But when you start about that, things like general folders and all of them may make sense. How do you exchange? How do you optimize? How do you, the entire life cycle of governance, access, monetization, all of that needs to be talked about.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think those are the interesting talks that I kind of heard. Unfortunately, I couldn't able to attend most of the talks because
You're busy.
most of the conversation is around the hallway conversation around with my
That's where the
ex-employee.
learning happens, right?
Yeah, there's tons of learning, very interesting insights. I think that's what conference all about, like more
Important.
knowledge exchange happening in the hallway rather than the conference talk. I even thought of this conference should have hallway ticket, much cheaper. You cannot enter into the talk, but you can be roam around in the hallway. I think Orly used to have something similar to that. You can go to expo hall. You can go to the expo hall, and you can see all the vendors. But you cannot
Okay.
attend the conversation. So there's an expo hall pass was there.
Okay.
I found this very interesting. So yeah,
Probably should write a note to Pete and then say, hey, come to the.
give us an expo code. But yeah, very interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Because I
that's
think it's a
essentially.
good forum where a lot of interesting startups have come up, right? I was just checking the website. A lot of young startups, lot of people who are trying to reshape what we do today. I think hallway conversations is where the magic would happen. Obviously, as the sessions are also useful. Let's not take the credit away from the sessions, but yeah, the magic, unfortunately, in every conference happens when you do hallway talks and coffee chats and after parties, right? Those are
Yeah,
where the magic happens. Then the core conversations are there, right?
yeah.
So just to kind of summarize, Anand, right? If you were to call out 2 or 3 learnings from your session last week that you spent like 3 days there, what would that be? Just 3 points.
I think the architect. I really like the conversations around the big data is dead. I think the how it is going to impact the overall data infrastructure architecture, that is going to be very interesting to see that one. That is something that I am also very curious to experiment.
Okay,
Uh, to see like, okay, if I introduce DuckDB, what is my data architecture going to change?
got it.
uh, and how the interaction and interoperability going to play, and what is the impact in the larger ecosystem here. Right now,
Yeah,
we have this very centralized data warehouse that we put everything this one. And what if it is not true that DuckDB is like, it's like everyone can have their own in-memory DuckDB data warehouse,
totally.
and I don't need to manage any infrastructure. It's a very interesting concept to think about it. So that's one of the things I want to that one. The other great learning for me is kind of experimenting more on ChatGPT side of it and try to see how it is going to do that one.
Yeah.
And data contract, it's been mentioned in the keynotes,
Oh yeah.
and that's
I
where
would.
Chad also kind of talking about it. I also met a couple of people who are actually trying to solve the data contract problem. So it was really interesting to see how mainstream it's slowly becoming. So it's very interesting to watch out for it. Tremendous learning from on the conversation of from the talks and then offline conversation with Avi on like how kind of thinking about the metrics and the analytics and then the organizational aspect of it. It's very interesting conversation with that one.
Perfect. No, I did make like a page full of notes while you were talking. If you've not noticed, I was making some notes as well, which I think was very valid, right? So, big data, talking about DuckDB, immutability, like how JSON is still going to outlive a lot of us, and what Abhi is building around the metric trees, right? I think. Thank you for sharing that, Anand. I think I thought, let's poke your brain. You've been out fresh and take some feedback around what you did speak at Data Council. You see, Gartner and all of those conferences, most people have access to that as part of organizational licenses. But I think the magic and the innovation happens in forums like Data Council, right? A lot of young founders who are doing the magic and the innovation for the next year of data journeys, right? So I think it was interesting to hear you, Anand, today. And thank you for sharing with the Data Engineering Weekly group.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Until see you next week.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.